turn it up, it's your new groove, yeah. Riding waves in the digital blue, yeah. CDO times got that insight, yeah. For the execs in the tech light, yeah. Bridging gaps with every tune, play it. Sync your mind to the tech boom, slay it.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Bytes of Brilliance, where we dive deep into strategies and technologies shaping the digital boardroom. I'm your host, Carsten Kraus, and today we have a truly insightful guest with us, Sanjeev Mohan. Yeah, Sanjeev is not only a former VP at Gartner, but also a thought leader in data and AI, artificial intelligence, known for his sharp analysis on what's trending in our industry. You may also know him from his own podcast, It Depends, or his well-regarded book, Data Product for Dummies. Sanjeev, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Carsten, for inviting me. I love the name of your podcast, Bytes of Brilliance. That's brilliant, no pun intended. And I'm looking forward to having a great conversation with you.
Great. I'm really looking forward to it, Sanjeev. So Sanjeev, let's maybe jump right in. In your recent work, you've mentioned some profound changes in the data and AI space, especially as we head into 2024 and beyond, right? To kick things off, could you share your thoughts on where we stand now in terms of data and AI? Specifically, what is the business environment for these technologies?
So, great question, Carsten. I love working with you. We just did an event together a few weeks ago in New York, and here we are. So some of the things you've heard me talk about, I'm a big AI enthusiast, and I know there's like people who are like, whoa, wait, AI is not really ready. But I think that we are seeing tremendous changes. And to your point, you're asking about business application. I think it's the businesses that are more excited about AI than the IT people. IT people are like a little bit scared, like my data is not AI ready, or I still haven't fixed quality, understanding my data. But the businesses are like, how quickly can we do AI? So some of the things that I see happening a lot these days is that AI is literally changing on daily basis. Every morning I listen to a few podcasts as to what happened, and I'm blown away. So much happened in just one day's time frame. We now have AI models, large language models, LLMs, that take their time to reason and think through the answer. This was not the case earlier. So Daniel Kahneman, this famous Nobel Prize winning author, had this idea of system one, system two. So models were system one. You ask a question, based on what they've been trained, they'll spit out the answer, right or wrong. Now they reflect, they self-correct, they go through multiple steps of reasoning, and then they come out with these answers. Businesses are also very excited because a lot of changes are coming in models that are becoming more real-time API driven for speech. Like OpenAI has a real-time speech API now, so I can talk. So talking and getting stuff back as audio is a total game changer. Anyone who's followed me lately knows how I was literally astounded by Google's Notebook LM, which creates these podcasts out of PDFs with two AI-generated hosts, and it's so natural.
Yeah, absolutely. That actually triggers a couple of thoughts. One thing that has happened to me recently, I don't know if I told you about that, but I actually was called by an AI agent. I didn't know that it was an AI agent. So it was a very friendly sales rep, and she asked me if I'm interested in log management. Now, I don't necessarily think about log management every day, but I just thought, maybe, it seems like a nice person and good approach. So, and she was asking me for to book some times with me. And ultimately, I said, well, I don't have time this week, and I need to, maybe we can arrange something for next week. But then she kept on pushing for the same week. And so I realized the behavior was very odd, and it became apparent that I was talking to an AI. And, I kind of called the AI out on it and asked her what the corporate policy is to why didn't she disclose that she was an AI in the first place to me, and she admitted that she's an AI, right? And so anyway, it was very interesting. And then the other thing is actually, for our listeners here and for yourself, feel free to head over to CDO Times, because I actually created an AI resume that I might also offer to CDO Times subscribers. But ultimately, I used Notebook LM as an example for me to talk for a podcast host to discuss why I'm qualified for data and leadership positions, and then use the GPT-4 to talk about ask questions about myself. But yeah, so it's fascinating. It sounds so real, right? And while that's all happening, at the same time, when I was with some companies, including Wendy's and Campbell's, we were looking at, how do you manage actually the costs for these AI pilots and prototypes. And, there's obviously no slowing down on investments in the area like cloud computing and AI, but I would love to also hear your thoughts on the talent side. I mean, you mentioned that the tech stack's complexity is increasing, but are we also facing shortage not only in money but also skilled professionals? How are organizations handling this challenge?
Yeah, so a good question about talent shortage, and it's actually very strange times we live in, because on one hand, there's been a lot of job cuts lately, and on the other hand, we are saying we don't have enough talent to do these complex data pipelines. As a result, what I've now noticed is that the pendulum has shifted again, and in favor of large companies. It used to be in modern data stack, we had thousands of super specialized software vendors who were addressing a tiny bit of the problem. And during the zero interest rate times, a lot of these companies also got funded. So that was the era which we are just now coming out of. Now I feel the center of gravity is with the hyperscalers, Snowflake, Databricks, IBM, Cloudera. So companies that have reduced the need to integrate disparate pieces of software. And some call it a data fabric, and there are other names, data mesh, or so basically these are pre-integrated products. So like, for example, if you're in Azure, you have to learn Azure Data Factory, Azure Databricks, or Spark, Synapse, but they're saying, or data catalog like Purview, they're saying, no, don't worry about that. We'll give you a single pane of glass. On the left-hand side are all the steps you would do in a given life cycle of managing your data. And using no code, low code, you can start stitching together sources of data into deriving intelligence. And by the way, with the advent of LLMs, we can now find correlations that we couldn't find before, or we can bring unstructured data that we couldn't bring before. So this is one way vendors are addressing the need to have these specialized skills.
No, that's very helpful. And it's still very early in the game for a lot of companies, and having trusted vendors and solutions that can give you a heads up or an advantage to quickly realize the value out of these solutions. I think that's everybody's kind of looking for the AI killer app that they can, derive out of the cool capabilities we have all seen, the perplexities and generative AI solutions, ChatGPTs, and you understand that there's value, but I think it feels like still folks are trying to figure this out, and maybe the text-based aspect is a little bit, it's very intuitive, but there's limitations, right? And most recently with multimodal AI, right, and with agentic AI, there's been another shift, right, where it's like, wait a second, so now it can remember everything that you've said. It can connect to different systems, like you mentioned, right, and do complex tasks, and it's not only one agent, but it's multiple agents working together as a team, right? It's crazy, right? In a way, if you think about it, how far we've come in like short span of like 9 to 12 months, right? It's just crazy. So talking about AI agents, especially in operations heavy sectors. For example, I think you referenced a multi-agent framework being used in insurance for streamlining claims processing. Could you elaborate on the potential of these AI agents?
Yes, absolutely. So AI agents are becoming, so first of all, let's define, like, maybe some of the viewers may not be aware of what is an AI agent. What are we talking about? So if we loosely, I'll define it. I'm not really interested in purist definition, more into something that's practical and one can visualize. So an agent is nothing but a piece of code that does a very specific business task, except that this piece of code is now driven by an LLM or some model, foundation model. So which means that it can infer the changing data, join it with other sources, and then make a decision of what to do next. So what we are trying to build is, if you look at what does a customer service agent, or maybe an auditor or an insurance company, people who write policies, what do they do? And you say that if you break down the task into multiple tasks, each task could be driven by its own agent. Because some agents are really good at understanding legal documents, because they're language models, they understand the content, they've been trained on it, and they can read a document and find out that like what pieces are related to each other. But then there could be another agent that is really good at diving into a database and doing like joins, or like taking data from one agent, finding the history, trying to do an analysis, and then another agent that is tuned to write a policy or file a claim. So this is a multi-agent world we are getting into. A lot of organizations, software vendors, are now in the process of creating some sort of a resource coordinator or an orchestrator that can then decide that for this task, go use this agent, for that task, go use that agent. The whole idea is that each agent is autonomous in itself.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. While you were talking, I was thinking about, the start of that automation with bots and agents, the RPA solutions, where you had kind of dumb tasks that could be repetitive tasks, and now this is, you add that additional intelligence on it. It's almost like you're connecting together different microservices or containers that are starting to interact with each other in an intelligent fashion. So it makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah, no, it does. So, Carsten, I think the big difference, like a lot of people say, wait, why is this such a new thing? We've had agents before.
Mhm.
And I think you hit the nail on the head. This level of intelligence, or dumb versus more intelligent agents, and this is coming from AI that is really good at inferring context. In the past, we've had RPAs and we've had all kinds of automation, but it was very rule based. When the data comes in, maybe we do some basic integrity checks, but nothing more than that. But when the data comes, then go do this. If
Mhm.
success, go do that. If failure, email somebody. So we are
Mhm.
very stringent, static, rule based,
Mhm.
but data is always changing. So
Right.
what if there's an anomaly and I miss that step?
Mhm.
Then I'm in trouble. But with AI, we have more power to us.
Yeah. Yeah. And talking about the data that we're managing in that, and especially if you're kind of automating it, handing it over to an agent potentially, I think there's obviously huge value, right? It's really tremendous, right? But at the same time, I can imagine that there are some regulatory challenges that are emerging, especially when you think about data privacy, data handling. A lot of companies are, including companies that I work with, we had an AI council where we were talking about AI policies and AI governance, and to make sure that these
Hmm.
agents and AI is used responsibly and securely, right?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah, so
your
AI
take on
governance
that?
is a very tricky topic, I have to say. I am a huge fan of data governance. In fact, I've said this before. In 2016, I got a call from a client inquiry from a customer in Europe. He said, I'm calling Gartner because I want to learn how do I go about setting up GDPR. And my question to him was, I'm sorry, what did you just say? GD what?
Hmm.
I'd never heard of GDPR in 2016.
Mhm.
So my point is that I got into governance and I was very deep into it. I love this topic. But how do you govern something that is not even in existence or not is not even baked? As I just mentioned a few minutes ago, AI is changing daily. So,
Mhm.
what are you going to govern based on what perceptions and a fear of something going wrong in the future? If you're overzealous, you can stop innovation in its tracks. Just recently, I'm sure you saw this in California, the governor, he rejected AI regulations because he doesn't want California to lose its competitive edge. Europe, on the other hand, has fallen behind. Some of these new models don't even run in Europe because of strict regulations there.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that we should not regulate. My point is that anytime you have a regulation and the technology changes drastically, it's like you're chasing your tail the whole time.
Hmm.
Are people going to have malicious use of AI? 100%.
Yeah.
Election interference is going on as we record this.
Right.
We are days away from US elections.
Mhm.
So, but the point is AI the first technology that is going to be abused? No, every technology goes through that. The question is how much good comes out of it versus bad. And so anyway, as you can tell, I'm
Mhm.
not such a big fan of regulating something too quickly because uh, we don't even know where it's going to go.
Yeah, yeah, I think I can definitely relate to that a lot because as a cybersecurity professional and
Hmm.
I appreciate data, I appreciate innovation, but I've been a CISO in the past, and
Hmm.
it just you know, can be a challenge to use security. The way I like to phrase it is that you want to have security measures and guardrails in place so you can innovate faster and securely, right? And you know that you have, it's almost like you're driving on a highway with 130 miles per hour, and you wouldn't want to do that if you don't have a brake system in place, right? You need to have some security in Gartner or someplace. And I mean, today even I was just listening to a report on CNN. It was something really bad, right? And it's not even. I don't think that was intentional of the organization that this was going to happen, but it wasn't thought through correctly. Where you had, it was a teenager that had a relationship with an AI on character AI and committed suicide because the AI told him to come to him. And I mean, that's just a crazy example of how far-reaching this innovation is. There's so many positive things that can come out of it, but it's also a lot of negative things and things to consider from a psychology perspective, all the way to bad agents, bad, some countries or hackers that are trying to do organizations harm.
Correct.
But I mean, that's maybe move forward to like looking at some of the positive side of AI, which
I completely agree. Yeah, no, it's really sad. I feel really bad, but I think there's also social media, the excessiveness of social media, our addiction to mobile devices. I think all of these things are causing shortage of attention span, and like habits are changing. So I don't know. I think technology in general can be a very powerful tool, or it can initiate or speed up negative consequences very fast as well.
Right.
Talking about, by the way, driving 130 miles per hour, I just have to say, when people
only
ask me,
in Germany.
what's sorry?
Only on the German autobahn. You can't do that in America.
Yes. So Carsten, you're from Germany. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I give this example all the time. In the US, we've got signs that say you can only go 60 miles per hour. If you go above it, you get fined. That to me is the old school governance, where if you don't do it, you go to jail. But in Germany, on an autobahn that does not have speed limit, you don't see accidents happening all over the place because governance is still happening, but it's not necessarily mandated through a speed limit. So a lot of governance has to be built into the system. Governance can never be an afterthought. Let me go build my data warehouse and then I'll figure out data governance. So with AI, it's even more important to do governance correctly. But how we do governance is very different from, like, there's a defensive and offensive. Defensive is what I'm against, which is some external body is saying thou shalt not do this. The offensive governance is a brake system. Brakes allow you to go faster. Because you can stop yourself if there's a crisis.
Exactly.
So with that mentality, you bake in governance the moment you kick off your AI project. You don't start with technology. I'm enamored by this new Llama 3.2, 407 billion parameter. No. You start with a business problem. CDO especially know this. So I'm preaching to the choir. You start with a business problem. You analyze what benefits can an AI give you, because AI is also not free. It can cost you a lot. Although now they're open standard, but compute is expensive. So to me, this is governance. Then you say, okay, these are my use cases. This is my experimentation. This is a return I get. I'm going to evaluate different models. This is the kind of accuracy I get. Was any sensitive data leaked or not? You go through this structured process. That is AI governance.
Yeah. Talking about some of the positive aspects, that if you have those foundations in place, I think that there's a lot of opportunity to create personalized capabilities. You see like RAG initiatives in companies. You see the agentic, approaches. with high quality data sets, including, to be honest, synthetic data. Can you explain how companies are leveraging these personalized AI stacks to gain a competitive advantage?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking that, Carsten. When I talk about personalized AI, by the way, you mentioned earlier on my YouTube channel and the book I wrote. I also write quite prolifically on my Medium blog site. I wrote an article which was kind of my manifesto for 2024. One of the key trends there was personalization of AI. There are many steps that you follow. The simplest one is prompt engineering, where you prompt in a way that's more controlled and specific, so you can then get the model to respond to your needs. One extension of prompt is where you send your own data to the LLM and you say, with this data, please do this analysis. And that is what I'm referring to is now called retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. So those are the two most common ways, just plain prompts and then RAG, to personalize my interactions with a AI model. But then there are two more sophisticated options: fine-tuning and training. So training a model is $100 million job. Hence, we've got companies like Meta, NVIDIA, OpenAI, Anthropic, Cohere. They're the ones who train their models, because it's a massive investment. But if a model is open source, like Meta's Llama 3.2 or IBM's Granite 3.0, I can take that open source model and I can start feeding it my own data, and I can say, take a base pre-trained model and but now train with some additional layers of the model of the neural network with my data, and create me what we now are calling an SLM, or small language model. Small language model could be, maybe I work for Pfizer and I want to read through all the New England Journal of Medicine and WHO reports and Center of Disease Control, and I want my model to be very specific to a certain types of diseases or something like that. That's a small language model. I personalize it. So now all of a sudden I can ask very good medical related questions because I know it knows this stuff. And there are new techniques coming out, like Meta has announced quantization, that reduces the size of these models to be so compact that I can run these on my iPhone. And now all of a sudden, I have AI, in my handset. So this is what's happening with personalized AI. Other things that are happening is that, by the way, corporate data is 90% of data in the world. So when we say LLMs are running out of data they've been trained on, that's because public data like Wikipedia, Reddit, that's all like available to everybody, YouTube videos. So the second way what companies are doing is they're saying, well, if I don't have access to unique data, can I use LLM to create synthetic data and then LLM to use the synthetic data to do analysis? Synthetic data can be very useful sometimes because let's say I'm not allowed to use corporate data to train an LLM because my corporate policy says that we don't want our sensitive data to be used by AI. You use synthetic data that changes, makes an artificial version, but it mimics the real data. And now you got vast amounts of synthetic data that you can train your model. And then when the time comes for inference, you then use it against real-time data, your real-life data. So that's why synthetic data is becoming really important these days.
Wow, that's such a interesting insight, right? Where you can overcome certain limitations. You're not violating data privacy concerns, right? So
Yep.
that's really interesting, and that's also encouraging to see how you can alter your approaches and still be regulatory compliant, right, and still achieve what you need to achieve. Now with a lot of this data, the sheer amount of data, right? There's a now again, I think the debate is coming up about cloud hosted data versus on-premise data or hybrid data. I know that you're you wrote something about that, about cost comparison, and how you could address that either by hosting your LLM in the cloud, or data in the cloud, or hybrid, or on the ground, sometimes I say, right? So why is I think there's a hybrid approach that is regaining in popularity. Why is that?
So, great question. Again, hybrid is regaining popularity because a core principle of data management is to minimize movement of data. We have lived in this world of data silos for so long that we've even lost track of which is the right source of truth, because there's so many copies of data. So can we not repeat the same mistake for AI? Can we just leave data where it was generated, if it's safe there and it's cost effective, and then we bring compute to where data is? So, so that is a core tenet of data management. Even in GDPR, there is a clause that says minimization of data. Well, this is minimization of data because you're not creating copies and copies of data for every single different workload. So
Yeah.
the second thing that I also want to address is if you listen to Andy Jassy from Amazon.com, previously he was CEO of AWS, he says that only 10-15% of data has moved to the cloud. Rest is all on premises. Maybe that's self-serving because he's trying to give an impression that so much more work can still be done in the cloud. But that begs the question, why is there so much data on premises? Why has it not already moved to the cloud? There are three reasons for that. One is security. Maybe that data is so secure, like electrical grids, they don't want their data to be in the cloud. They have already built super secure data centers. Compliance could be another reason. So that's one. The second thing is latency. If I'm operating an assembly line and I have a historian database that's taking these logs from machines that are doing 1,000 RPMs, so I have massive amounts of data, and I'm doing some real-time analysis, sending it to the cloud might add to the latency. The third problem is cost. Sometimes you have a lot of log data, then you storing all that data in the cloud can be very costly. So now the question comes, can I just leave it on premises, and then use some hybrid databases, hybrid technologies? So that takes me to the third point, which is, what is cloud computing? So cloud computing used to be a hyperscaler driven data center. So it was a destination. My data is in the cloud meant it was on AWS S3 or Azure Data Lake or Google Cloud Storage or somewhere else.
Right.
Today, the definition of cloud is not a destination, it's an operating model. And that operating model says, can we run our jobs in these containers, maybe microservices with elastic scale and pay per use, all of those things. If I can bring those concepts to on-premises, then I get the benefits of cloud. So I can now do hybrid. Some can be in public cloud, some stuff can be in private cloud. I don't have to move everything to one place. If most of my data is on-prem, I can train the model on-prem.
Right.
And also, by the way, if I have a private cloud, then I know it won't scale to infinity and run up my bill, because my private cloud is limited to the amount of capacity I have. So there's also some feeling of like security that I won't have runaway cost.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think when we're I mean, in a way when we're talking about cloud, the cloud is hosted somewhere, right? So
Yeah,
it's always on the ground somewhere.
yeah. Like when we say serverless,
Yeah,
we don't mean serverless, like
yeah,
there are no servers. It's just we are thinking of servers less because the provider is thinking of servers.
right, right. Yeah, I think we spend a good amount on cloud. Maybe we can maybe zoom out a little bit
Yeah.
for a moment. Um, Maybe one of the things that we're always trying to predict the future and see and help executives that are listening to this podcast identify some of the key trends. If you had to identify the top three trends in data and AI for 2024, what would they be, and why do you think that they're so impactful?
So we've talked about a lot of this stuff already. So I'll be very brief because I know I might be saying too much here and taking up all your time. So
No, no, please, no, don't restrict yourself. We got to hear the
okay.
truth.
Okay, hopefully maybe we can edit it. But so the what are the top trends? So the top most trend is of course AI. We've talked quite a bit about it. AI agents is the hottest thing around. By the way, something amazing happened just recently as you published this podcast where Claude Sonnet 3.5 came out with something called a computer use API. And literally this LLM uh, takes over your entire computer and starts moving the cursor around, and it says you need to fill up a form. Let me go look into Excel for information. Let me look into your CRM. And then it just fills up the form and executes that. It's an agent.
Well,
But it's brilliant because in the future, this might be how I fill up RFIs because it takes me
mhm,
days and weeks to do RFIs. I can just say, here is the RFI,
mhm,
now go at it. And this is only the first iteration. In the future, we may even have speech. I can just keep talking to it. It can talk to me back. So that real-time API interface into a multimodal
mhm,
foundation model is a huge trend. So, and then with personalization, that's one. The second thing, since you asked about data and AI, the second thing is this convergence of structured and unstructured data.
mhm,
So I in fact tell people there is no such thing as AI stack. It's an intelligent data platform. So it's a data platform which has this. It's built for structured Parquet files on S3, but now I can read unstructured data, create vector embeddings, store the entities and the embeddings into my Parquet file. So that's number two. The number three big thing in data space is this whole concept of open table formats. Some people think this whole iceberg thing is overblown, but I really think what happens with iceberg is it does not matter where your data is, on-prem, in the cloud, Snowflake, Databricks, Oracle, you just name it. If everybody stores adheres to iceberg, it could be on an IBM cloud object store, and it's available to any engine.
mhm,
So this open standards is a huge movement. Open standards for models, where the models weights and data are open source. Open standards for data storage with Iceberg, Delta, Hoodie. Now I can bring any analytical engine I wish on top. If I Snowflake is amazing for certain use cases, if I want millisecond response, maybe I can bring single store. I'm just mentioning like what people are not even thinking. If the
mhm,
volume is too small, I can bring DuckDB.
mhm,
If I want to ETL, I can use Spark. I can use Pandas. I can use Trino.
mhm,
So, so this is the beauty of these open standards and how we have, for the first time, disaggregated storage, compute, and even within compute, we further separated analytical engines.
mhm. Yeah, and I think what you're also kind of touched on is when you have these new integration seamless integration patterns or capabilities that metadata layer, that seems to be the key here, right? To connect everything.
Yeah.
How does can you use metadata?
Yeah.
How can organizations use it to stay agile?
So such a great point, because if the attention has shifted from uh, proprietary file formats into open table format like Iceberg, then the center of gravity shifts to metadata management. How do I know where is my data stored? Which partition, which file, or abstracting all of that, who's using that data, what is the quality of that data? So the metadata management becomes really important. In fact, Gartner in 2024 introduced for the first time their Magic Quadrant called Data and Analytics Governance Platform. And next year in 2025, they may even bring back metadata management that was last published in 2020. So you can see where Gartner goes. Gartner is sort of the bellwether. There is so much interest in metadata. What I really like about metadata is that it becomes a common substrate to describe all your data elements. That common substrate I can use I can put it in a catalog. I can use it to understand the lineage. What is my data quality, master data management, apply data access governance policies, create a semantic layer on top, do my data preparation. All of these use cases would be done by specialized different tools in the past. Now, now the new governance platform companies are addressing multiple of these use cases.
Yeah, I mean, it's just fascinating, all that innovation coming our way, and it certainly is going to make things so much easier. And even like what you mentioned before, then remote control of your computer. I mean, I need to
Yeah.
look into that. I can see a lot of opportunities in that space. We could probably talk about these things for hours and hours, and we probably should, but maybe why don't we kind of switch gears a little bit? Kind of towards the end of our podcast, I like to do like a rapid fire round of questions, where you take we get some quick takes from you on hot topics in data and AI. Does that sound good? All right, ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Okay. Biggest misconception about AI?
I would say don't think of AI as a brand spanking new magic wand. You still need to pay attention to your data.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. One technology you think is overhyped right now?
Can I be a bit controversial?
Please.
Okay, in that case, I would say AI at the very same time is the most overhyped and yet the most underhyped. One thing that I do not like to talking about overhyped, is AGI.
Right.
And the reason is because I've already delegated it to people like Elon Musk.
Yeah. Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg have like a little
both of them
match of words about that.
Yeah.
So, what's your favorite book or resource for data enthusiasts that they have to read?
So I would say it's not a book because so much changes. Every day I go to different websites. VentureBeat has some really good articles as to what happened, but there are multiple sites. Surprisingly, the most commonly visited place I go to get my daily fix of what's going on in AI is YouTube. There's some amazing podcasts that I listen to. And it's surprising that YouTube has become the source. I guess it's not that surprising considering what we discussed, how important voice is these days, but that's my go-to place.
If you could implement a one AI-driven change in any industry, what would it be?
I would say personal health. I want AI to be smart enough to connect the dots between my personal history, my habits, my DNA, the kind of environment I'm in, and then just be my assistant, just recommend to me that, dude, stop having so much sugar, go eat your vegetables. I'm being facetious here. But I think that to me would be a game changer because it'll help us be more fit
Yeah.
in our lives.
Yeah, no, I think that it's almost like you have your digital twin. I'm kind of thinking of the Star Trek tricoder where you scan yourself and you can immediately see, what's wrong or how can you improve
Yeah.
your health situation. How about one piece of advice you'd give to CDOs or folks that want to be rising into the CDO realm, looking at AI investment in 2024?
Okay. Great point. I think we talked about how the way I looked at AI governance and taking a very structured approach. I would expand on that. And one piece of advice I would give to CDOs is that do not wait for AI to mature. Is it ready for prime time? Maybe yes, maybe not. Who cares? Get your hands dirty. Start experimenting. Because if you don't, your competitors will. So that's my advice.
Yeah, no, that's really sound good advice. I think there's so much innovation happening in this space. You just you need to get in there, try things out, and connect with peers. Listen to podcasts and learn from each other, right? But yeah, great advice. Hey, Sanjeev, thank you so much. This has been incredibly insightful today. Appreciate you sharing your expertise on data and AI. For our listeners, you can find more of Sanjeev's insights on his website, sanjmo.com. And also, please check out his podcast, It Depends, and his Medium blogs. Thanks again, Sanjeev, and to our listeners, stay tuned for the next episode of Bytes of Brilliance.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Turn it up, it's your new groove, yeah. Riding waves in the digital blue, yeah. CDO times got that insight, yeah. For the execs in the tech light, yeah. Bridging gaps with every tune, play it. Sync your mind to the tech boom, slay it.